Exactly. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's another time of Impact 45 again. We are here again this evening. And with me here, we are blessed to have Assistant Pastor Angela Oponi here with me. We are also expecting Mrs. Oluyemisi Mobolurin. We will be expecting about, we have Assistant Pastor Angela Oponi here with me. She's a marriage counselor with 3 decades of experience. She's a child of God that has been saddled with the responsibility of creating Christian home, kingdom homes. And she's married to Mr. Tony Oponi. So, mommy, welcome. Is it fine to address you by mommy, or I should call you Mrs. Angela or Mrs. Oponi? Well, what are you comfortable with now?
Anyone that you are comfortable with is fine by me.
All right, okay. So thank you very much. Yeah, we are really honored to have you this evening. So, but
Thank
basically, this evening we need your experience to talk about one of the major problems we have in our community now, and that is on marriages specifically, kingdom marriages specifically. Based on your experience, I can see you are vast with experience. You have more than 30 decades of experience. Based on your experience, what can you see, or why can you say a lot of marriages need counseling? Let's start with that.
Can you? Your line went off.
Okay, so I'll repeat myself. I said we can see that you can you hear me properly now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I said we can see that you have vast experience with marriage and marriages specifically. So we based on your experience, what can you say brings a lot of marriages for counseling? Why do you think a lot of marriages need counseling?
Um, well, first and foremost, good evening, everybody. My name is Angela Pony,
Good evening.
and like you said, I'm a blood-bought child of God. I've 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 been in marriage counseling for God knows how long. So the question is, why do marriages need counseling? You see, marriage has no specific formula, as it were. What works for A may not work for B, and what works for B. So you have to discover every day what will work for your marriage. And then sometimes you need to, you don't know it all. You may not be able to decode or figure out some things that is happening, and that is why you need counseling. And the first counselor is actually the Holy Spirit. So if you are able to first of all go to that counselor, that way the counselor will even direct you to who or who you need to talk to. That is one. Secondly, you need counseling because you don't know it all. You can tap from wisdom from other people, other marriages that is working, and then use part of that formula, maybe not completely, but use part of it to be able to add your own to it, and then get what you need for your marriage to succeed.
Hmm. All right, thank you very much. So, based on what you said, you said we need other people's experience. You can use other people's formula to, try to use it for your own. Now, in this generation, this generation specifically, how do you help couples to balance independency and togetherness? Independency and togetherness. Because my generation will tell you that I don't want to marry a liability. I want to marry somebody that can make some decisions, themselves. So, how do you help couples manage or have this balance between independency and togetherness in their marriages?
Okay, first and foremost, let me be clear that most of the people I counsel are people who are in the Lord, who supposedly Christians. Do you understand? Which makes it easier for you because you have a
Okay.
manual, which is the Bible, that you can follow through. So I'm going to be referring to the Bible quite often. If you want independence, then you don't have any business with marriage. So I always tell you to this, because I counsel most of this generation, Gen Z, millennials, and all that stuff. If you want independence, you see, biblically, you don't have to marry. Do you understand? You can make yourself an Enoch for the sake of the gospel. So if you, the thing went off. Can you still hear me? If you feel that
yes, I can hear you perfectly.
If you feel that you want to get you cannot put anybody in bondage with your independence, as it were. So if you want your independence fully, that you take your decision, you do what you like, you want to, be able to feel free to do anything, then that is living for you and yourself alone. You don't have any business with marriage. However, the fact that if you choose rightly, if you marry rightly, you will not feel left out of being independent. What am I saying? I have been married. This is my 30th year of marriage. I've been married for 30 years. If I look back, I have not felt anything like being captured. I have not seen anything that will hold me down, not to be able to express myself. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I've not seen anything that will not make me be able to express myself.
Yes.
If you do it and you do it rightly, okay, your independence is not taken away from you. You still be yourself in the marriage, and you bring something good to the table. The problem with independent people is that they just think about themselves and themselves alone. What are you bringing to the table? It's not all about you. There are two people involved here, as it were. What are you bringing to the table? So that's the thing I always tell, I have a lot of women who say, hey, I want somebody that will take care of me, that will do this and do that. You want somebody to take care of you. Are you prepared to take care of somebody else? As it were. So this issue of independence and all that I believe that you can express yourself by being with the right. If you are with that person, you'll be free to express yourself. You will not lose anything. You are not losing you are not feeling that somebody caged you or you are in bondage. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome, Pastor Adebayo. It is good to have you this evening. Can you hear me, sir?
Good evening. I'm enjoying your discussion with Mrs. Oponi. Madam, you are welcome. Good to have you on the Part 45.
Good evening, Pastor Bayo.
Yeah, I want to ask you this question. If you are to advise somebody that will be going to marriage of reason, somebody that is looking for who to choose as a man, as a woman, what are those attributes you ask them or you advise them to look for in to be spouse? If I'm to lift people that are looking for suitors now, they are shopping, they are looking out, they are praying. What are those qualities you ask? Let's start with our daughters. What are those qualities you advise them to look out for in a man?
Okay. Number one is, like we always say, when you ask them who are they looking for, if you ask our daughters, the first thing they answer you is that somebody who is God-fearing. Okay? And I tend to agree with them. You see, if you do not reverence God, there's no way you can be able to take care of somebody else, because it's like nobody's going to. God stands as a check for you. So as our daughters, look out for those people who are genuinely fear God. There's no fake. See, most of the things that happen in marriage, all the signs are there even before the marriage. The signs are there. It's just that sometimes our daughters, we are so much emotional and we get so carried away, either by gifts or by somebody petting you. I always say that love is blind, marriage is an eye-opener. Okay? So don't blind yourself by just what is around you. So look for somebody who genuinely fears God. Number two, if the man you are looking for look at how that man reacts to people around the man. Look at how caring that person is to other people. If you are meeting somebody and the person engages you and all the person does is to run down somebody else, when he gets to a stage, it will run you down. So look at the way they treat the person you are meeting, how they treat their relationships. When I say relationship, their family. Do they have any respect or regard for their family? Because if they don't have regard for their family, if they are doing their own thing and they don't have anybody that they respect in the family, because when the chips are down, when things happen, you will not have anybody to talk to them. So that is number 2. How caring is that person to people around you, to people, to their colleagues, to their friends, to how do they react? Number 3 comes with work. You check out what is the reaction to those people about work. I always say that hard work does not kill anybody. So do the person have a job? Number 4, which is, I want to take it back as number 2. What is their vision? What is their vision? What is their potential? So it's not about, these days our ladies look out for somebody who is comfortable, who has money. As far as they are concerned, once there's money that takes care of you, that's it. And our men, our young boys are running away because they believe that until they arrive, they cannot find a wife. So you need potential. As a woman, you need to look at potential. You need to grow with whoever you are going to marry, because money has wings. You can have money today, and in the marriage, the money may fly. And then as a woman, you also must learn to develop yourself. So whatever you are looking for in a man, okay, you also have something to produce on the table. That's a little bit of what I can say, because there's a lot.
Okay, thank you, AP Angela Umpoli, for that explanation. So what of if a man is looking for, what are those qualities to look for in ladies, for a guy that is looking for love from ladies too, you know? Those things you mention are from guys. What you look out for in a guy. What will a guy be looking out for in the ladies before you say this is the bone of your bone and the flesh of your flesh?
The very first one is for both parties. God-fearing women.
Okay.
That's for both parties. So number 2, you look for somebody who can compliment you. Really, somebody who can compliment you. Somebody who can show attributes of being a friend, being a sister, being a mother. Okay? Because motherhood is not about just the children that you give birth. See, I always say that there's somebody who is industrious as a woman. If a lady is, all the lady is out for is to say, take care of me, take care of me. I always say that. What did you spend on me? This, that. You understand me? Then that person is not ready for marriage, because the Proverbs 31 woman, okay, is not a lazy woman. And the Proverbs 31 woman is a hardworking woman, an industrious woman, is everything you can think of. Is an event planner, is a seamstress, is somebody who is kind, is one. So look for those attributes that, you know, it's easy for you to know a woman who really will compliment you and run the race of marriage with you. So you must look for, number 1, God-fearing women. Number 2, a woman who is very caring enough to be able to show sacrifice, and a woman who is, I want to use the word submissiveness, in the sense that, not that she's a fool, because the role of submissiveness and the role of love is for both parties. Okay, because the Bible says in Ephesians 5:21 that submitting one to another. So it's one to another. So a woman who, you know, that when you can discover that strength in her, she's very caring, she's not worldly, she's not going to be the one that, I mean, she can look good, but She's not a spendthrift. So you have to find in that woman, once you are able to find that woman that can complement you, okay, and is not wasteful, I think that basically that's it. And then another key thing and a major thing is the family background. Look,
Family
and it works for
background.
both parties. Family background. What is that? How does most women treasure their family? How do they respond to their own family, as it were?
Thank you, Mrs. Opone. Let me follow up with that, asking you this question. This generation seems not to believe in marriage anymore. How can this mindset be corrected? This generation, they seem to be running away from marriage. I've heard countless times that marriage is a scam. If you are to, Mrs. Mobolure, you are welcome, man. Good to have you on
Thank
Impact
you.
45.
And
So I will throw that question to
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Mrs. Uponi, please wait a minute. Let me use that question to welcome Mrs. Mobolure. Mrs. Mobolure, this generation, they seem not to believe in marriage anymore. If you are to have the years of this generation, how will you try to change the mindset? That mindset of marriage is a scam. What would be your advice to them?
I'm not so sure that they think that marriage is a scam. I think the problem is the fact that a lot of them feel. I think our generation should be held responsible for the way we raise them, and they're accustomed to some comfort, and they don't see themselves taking on additional responsibility because there's a generational mindset. Me, I, and mine. They take care of themselves first. So they're looking at the fact that if they take on additional responsibility, if they get married, many of them, I'll say, because we still conduct marriages, and I'm sure you still do. So they're looking at it that they cannot afford to be responsible for another person. They're not yet satisfied materially, that is. So I don't think they think that marriage is a scam. The fact is that they don't think they can afford marriage.
Are we because if you look all over internet now, most especially there is this picture of guys that are at the wedding reception, and the other guy was trying to throw a bouquet to the guys that
And
who will hold this
they run
bouquet.
away.
And everyone ran away. So now, if you look at the guys generally now, majority of them, they are running from marriage. Is it that we have not dropped enough legacy for them to be attracted to marriage, or they've not seen good example of marriage?
That's why I said our generation can be held responsible the way we have raised them. Then there's the generational problem. This generation is self-centered.
They are selfish.
And as a result, well, yeah. So as a result, they take care of me first. So am I in the place that I think that I can share what I have with somebody else? And many of them saying no. And they're not ready to share. And the girls themselves are not ready to share. That's why a lot of them, even when they go into it, they quickly run out at the slightest problem, not understanding what marriage is all about. So also, there have been bad examples by parents, because you can only desire something good. I know somebody who lived in my family for 8 years. And he said to me, he's now in Canada, he said, before he came to my house, he used to tell his friends, he's actually getting married later on this year, that he would never get married because of what he saw in his house. He didn't think marriage could be peaceful. There was not, wasn't a matter of violence, but no unity, always one contention or the other. And that was what he grew up with until he came to my house. And then he saw that we could actually sit down together and crack jokes. And I said, the day he said it to me, I said, hey, so you'll be watching. This was many years after he lived with us. So now, to the glory of God, I thank God for my marriage, that it was a good example to somebody who lived with us for 8 years, and now he's getting married later on this year. So it's not.
Thank you, man.
It, uh,
Thank you, man. I really
Go on.
appreciate that. So, Mrs. Uponi,
Yes, please.
what do you think is the cause of increase in divorce?
You see, marriage is commitment. Commitment that when you are going, people don't even remember their vows anymore. So many things. They always say that marriage is not a bed of roses. I always say that marriage is a bed of roses surrounded by thorns. And everything that can be a blessing to your marriage can also be a thorn to your marriage. Okay? So, children are a blessing. But if you don't raise them properly, they begin to bring friction between both of you as husband and wife. All right? And your job, your career that's supposed to bring, fruitfulness into the home can take you out of anywhere, and it becomes a thorn in your flesh. So all these things, if you do not know how to handle all the blessings, all the purportedly things that God has gifted you with, that will be a blessing to your marriage, if you do not know how to apply them correctly, you will end up having a divorce, as it were. And then there are no role models out there. People see more bad marriages than good marriages. Like when our counselees come to the class, I always tell them that, look, if your mindset and the kind of marriages you have seen in the past, if you have seen a lot of the bad marriages, now you are now in our class, please look at our own marriages and begin to use them as, just like Mommy Mobolun said, and begin to use them as a yardstick. So when and they are not properly mentored, and that's why we always say that it is important that you go through counseling, good proper counseling, before you enter into marriage, so that we can educate you on what to expect. We have like 14 modules of every topic: role of man, role of woman, understanding marriage, courtship, even pregnancy, family planning, communication in marriage, finance, as it were, handling social media. Then all kinds of, we have 14 topics that we take. So if you do not know what marriage is all about, that it is not something that you want to jump in and then fly out, it's not easy. And I keep telling people that, look, if you have conflicts, if you enter your marriage and you have conflicts, and you feel that leaving that marriage will solve your problem, it's not going to solve your problem. It's going to compound your problem, especially when there are children in the marriage, because that conflict will get worse. Maybe two of you are together before, and you are weathering this. You are weathering the storm. I mean, what do they call it? And you are once you go as enemies and you step out, the quarrel continues. That's why you see people, when they want to get married from broken homes, the father will say, no, this is what I want. Well, we face all these things. Your daughter wants to get married because you have now married somebody else, or the mother is somewhere else. We have to now start a kind of divine intervention for them to come together to be able to say, okay, make this girl's joy or make this boy's joy full for that day. So it gets worse. So divorce, we always say, our own motto is, divorce is not an option. If you don't know what commitment is, you cannot stay in marriage. And if you don't grow yourself and deal with yourself first, your own background, you cannot stay in marriage. And those are the issues that can cause divorce. And then too much is choking the marriage, the economy, all that. If you don't know how to handle it, those things will choke you, and then result in divorce.
Thank you, AP.
And most times, when the communication line breaks down,
yes,
that's when you have a divorce.
When the communication line is severe.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
thank
first
you.
of all, many of them don't understand marriage, what it is. They like the glamour of getting married. They're more concerned about, especially the ladies, what they're going to wear, well, the party they are going to have after,
The
during that
wedding.
ceremonies, a lot of Mrs. Uponi will testify, will confirm this. Many times the pastor will draw their attention to the words that is being said. The couple will be busy chatting. The invitation says solemnization of marriage. Solemnization, which means it is a ritual. It is a dignified ritual. It is a solemn moment, which means it's a time that they should, a time of reflection, that they should listen to the vows they were exchanging, and also to the words that was coming from the minister. But a lot of times they get carried away by the ceremony itself. So they really don't understand what they're getting into. And that is one big problem, because if you understand what, and that's what the premarriage counseling class is very important. But like she said, there are 14 modules, and we've had cases where people didn't go through with the plans, right, Mr. Pony?
Yes.
People didn't continue because by the time they went through some of those classes, they realized that the marriage was going to fail. So they decide, no, it's better, because you also tell them, be sure, by the time you go through this, be sure that this is something you want to do, because there's no exit. There's only a handle to go in, or a handle on the door to go in. There's no handle on the other side. So we keep stressing it. And because we keep stressing it in the department, a lot of people realize that it's a serious business. So that's one reason. And another reason that they don't realize also that there are different stages of marriage. When you are head over heels in love, you get married, the honeymoon stage, everything is rosy, you are holding each other's hands. And after a while, you just notice that this man, I don't want to go through the stages here. So you don't just touch it. You just see that this person, when he comes back from work, he throws his jacket on the sofa. Whereas you come from a house where everything was in place. When you come in, you go and hang your clothes. Or the person just comes, throws his shirt somewhere, throws his underwear somewhere in this, and then the irritation starts. They don't realize that they need to blend with each other, understand each other's character, understand each other's weaknesses, and blend it. And gradually they start growing. Then, like she said, the challenges come in. So there are different stages, but once they just see the little bit of shaking, they say, I made a mistake, I'm out.
Let me ask you further question, Mrs. Mubolori. Has there been any case in your journey as a counselor, as a marriage counselor, that you advise the couple to separate for now, temporary separation? They say for now, with the things I have seen in this marriage, you want to advise temporary separation. Have there been any cases like that?
Not among counselees, but I have seen it happen, because the person was working in my husband's office, and we're having one of our programs some years back. Pastor Oponi would remember when the lady from the ministry came that year that we invited her to come and talk about the domestic abuse.
Domestic abuse, yeah.
Yes, and my husband went to the office. He's retired, but he's his chairman. He went to the office and he saw this girl in the reception, and he said, show Johnny, because her arm was in POP. I said, no, she fell from Okada. So it was later the MD now called my husband and said, don't mind her, that her husband beat her up. He's always beating her. So my husband now told me to invite her to the program. So I invited her to the program, that she even had to see the pastor, and they invited the husband. I mean, the way things were, they asked them to separate, but unfortunately, they haven't gotten back together. She's taking care of the 3 children alone.
Wow.
But amongst our direct counselees, I haven't seen.
Okay.
He would have killed that. He would have killed that girl. You remember the story? The story of Kolade. Kolade was a member of Christ Church. We were in the same workers training together.
Yeah.
If you'd had that kind of counseling, or you had the kind of support that we give now, we probably wouldn't have killed his wife. What would make a man stab someone 39 times? And it was on his 30th birthday. She left the office early so that she could, because they've been having issues. I guess she wanted, how we women are. Maybe if I cook him special food on this day, maybe things will improve. Unfortunately, that was the day he ended her life.
Thank you, Mrs. Mubolure. AP Opone, do you want to add something to have some of the people you counsel and you advise them? No, I think at this point in time, separation is advisable.
Okay, yes. Amongst the people we counseled, there have been, I think, about 2 cases or 3 or so, if I remember them vividly. Okay, before I talk about those ones, on that same program we had, there was a couple also. They didn't go through counseling with us. It was based on that program that the wife also came around to tell us the issue of domestic violence. So when there is domestic violence, we will tell you, because we don't want anybody to die. So we'll tell you it's time for you to temporarily separate, because we frown at it. The church frowns at it. Government frowns at it. Lagos State government, particularly OPD, Office of the Public Defender. If
Send the
they
person
hear
to
that
jail.
you are beaten, they will come with helicopters, even if they can, to come and evacuate. So the government frowns about it. We don't want anybody to die, because sometimes we always put ourselves in the position. Supposing that person is your daughter, you cannot say because of Christianity, because marriage is sacred. We agree. But when it comes to beating, it's not in the Bible that a man should be beating his wife. And let me tell you, there are some women that are beating their husbands also. So when it's a case of domestic violence, we say that it is better for everybody. I mean, violence that is real violence. Everybody stay your own until each of you can go through therapy or counseling or whatever, so that you can now come back together if possible. But if the traits are still there, we don't want anybody to die, as it were. That is one. Now, from the people that we counseled, these ones are like, on one occasion, we told them point blank that it's not going to work. Okay? That I remember that time Christ Church was still being built. We were still using the side of the tents, as it were. So we actually spoke to them. They were in our class. We said, it's not going to work. You understand me? That we have seen discrepancy in the way the two of you, your vision is totally different. Your actions, your reactions is different. The boy is like a deeper life background. The girl is like big wild girl like this. And then we told them point blank that, look, I don't know why you people want to go into, but maybe you should go back and pray. Well, they left. They eventually got married, but that marriage didn't last 4 months. 4 months. And they separated. The other one was a case of when they had started counseling, they were going on. Is even one of these popular radio, whatever. And the girl is from a very big family. In a very, very big family in Oyo State, in Ibadan. And then the guy is also a very popular, By the time they went through counseling with us, I just told the girl point blank. I said, look, this Americana that you want to, go into, this and this and this are our observations. If you still want to go ahead, we don't stop anybody from saying it's your decision. You can go ahead, but these are the checks that you need to look at. The girl said, okay, that she's been seeing some of those things, but that she feels that he can change. And I always say it, marriage does not change anybody. Okay, don't set out to say you want to marry because you want to change somebody. You go into marriage because you want to complement the person, not to change the person. So as much as possible, eventually they went through the class. When they were almost through with the class, which is like 2 weeks before their wedding, she comes to class that day, calls my husband and I, and said that she doesn't think she will go ahead with this wedding. And I remember that day vividly. It's a big, when I say big family, Ashoebi has gone 150K. I'm talking of 150K in the year 2007. That kind of thing. So that was how, as soon as she called my husband, and my husband said, look, if you decide to still be flowing with this, and you get to the front of the church on that day of your wedding, where before you enter the church, if you decide to change your mind at that time, glory be to God. You can make a U-turn with your wedding gown and everything at the entrance of the church before you enter. So as much as possible, we had, by the time she came around and said, look, this is it, we just gave her the blessing and said, look, it's your decision. I said, how do you handle your family people? Because it's just 2 weeks away. She said she's going back to talk to them, that she really wanted to talk to us first. Today, I'm happy for her because she's happy. And then eventually the guy passed on, you know. And before he passed on, he was jumping from one woman to another, to mom, baby mama, to all that. Was that what she could have faced, as it were? So sometimes we go. I mean, the truth should not be hidden. We should be able to tell the truth at all times. We cannot say because we want to be nice, you know. Christianity say we should just patch it. Okay, it doesn't work that way. It is easier for you to take your decision as a single person than when you get into the marriage.
Thank you, AP Pony. Mommy Mobolori, when we
Yes,
look at the
please.
issue of marriage, it's like our mothers and our parents, they had it better than us. Where do we get it wrong?
Endurance.
Thank
Our
you.
parents endured, sometimes
Endurance
for the
or
sake of the
long
children.
suffering.
Endurance and yes, long suffering. Because they looked at, first of all, young people today, because of financial empowerment, they feel that they can go it alone. It doesn't work. I can take care of my children. Because I remember there was a case recently that an appeal was made to, that she should just give the marriage a chance. She just said no. Somebody even told me recently about one that was caught her in adultery. She had already moved out of the house, you know, and she had children, about 3 children. So that financial strength is also a problem. But the point that you need the two financial strength to be able to raise a family. So it comes down to a matter of understanding what marriage is all about. Our parents, a lot of times, they were not financially empowered. So some of them, they couldn't strike it out on their own.
You mean our
But some
mothers?
of them felt, sorry?
You mean our mothers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a problem for some of them. So they would look the other way. And for some of
Okay.
them, they wanted to be around for their children, to raise their children. They didn't want their children to suffer. They were ready to sacrifice for their children. But like I said earlier, this generation Z and Alpha, is a selfish generation, and it's an entitled generation. And part of it is the fact that a lot of the social skills that we develop, we acquire as we are growing up, they don't acquire it anymore, because the people themselves, are into all these digital things. They don't interact with human beings, so they don't know how to relate. They don't know how to empathize. So they're always like, it is what I want. This is what I want, and nobody can tell me anything. If it doesn't conform, or if she doesn't conform, I'm out. And then the parents themselves encourage it. When we were getting married, they would tell you, "Bó ṣe ń lọ yẹn o, ò padà o. Bó ṣe ń lọ yẹn ò padà o." That means as you are going, you are not coming back. You said you want to marry him. So at that time, you would think about it, and there was also stigma. There was a stigma to divorce. Today, it doesn't mean anything. It's the days of baby mamas and divorce. You have people who have been married 3 times. It doesn't get. They even glamorize it. Somebody has been married 4 times before, and then it's married the 5th time, and they now have glamour wedding. Like, we say, what kill and pole nínú ìdọ̀tí. So that is part of the problem, and lack of understanding. Yeah, go ahead.
See, the beautiful thing about the Bible is that there's nothing that is happening around in the whole world at any point in time that is not biblical. So The Bible, talks about in Proverbs 30, if you read from 11, it says there's a generation that curses its father and does not bless its mother. There's a generation that is pure in its own eyes, yet is not washed from its filthiness. And there's also a generation, how lofty are their eyes? Their eyes are quite very, very open, And there's also a generation whose teeth are like swords and whose fangs are like knives. What that generation does is to devour the poor from the earth and the needy from amongst men. So the truth of the matter is that when you look at the way the Bible outlined it, you ask, ever since I that ministered to me, I'm like, what generation? They have listed 4 generations in Proverbs 30, and you know how long ago the Bible has. So it means that for every generation, there's always, it's like a cycle. There's always something that is happening to that generation, at that point in time. So if you know that, and that's why we parents, we need to ensure that we raise our children well. If this has ministered to you, you want to make sure that even if your child is in that generation, your child will be different from all other people. And that your child, you cannot do it alone with just the one that you gave birth to biologically. You have to go and make sure, because every child that God brings your way is your child. So instead of you just looking at them and letting them perish, because you can train your own children and somebody else did not train their children, and that person that they did not train will come as a husband or as a wife to your own child, which means the problem comes back to you. So as much as possible, we must first of all understand what this generation is all about. Which one do they fall into? Is it to devour the poor from the earth, or those whose teeth are like sword, or those ones whose eyelids are up? Or is it a generation that is very lofty in their eyes, or they are so pure in their own eyes? Which of the generation do this Gen Z belong to? So I put that question back to you.
Let me thank you, Mrs. Opone.
Can I say something? I'll also say that, spirituality also has a role to play. If they are grounded, if they are born again and they are grounded in the word, they'll know what the word says. They'll know that they're supposed to live and cleave. So when you're now cleaving, that means the two of you are one. Now that vow that they're taking, that they have become one, will mean a lot to them. But nowadays, people really don't go into this. And the issue of submission, educated women have an issue with submission the way it's been interpreted.
Wow.
Right? They don't know that there's strength in submission. Because when you submit, and some people said, I remember Gio had told us a story about his parents, that the father wouldn't pay the school fees of the other children. But when it was time for him to go back to school, his mother would go. And you guys, the father, Oluworimi, this, the way praise him. By the time she will finish, the man will bring out the money and pay his school fees.
Wisdom.
Yeah. Wisdom, yeah. So a lot of times people don't understand, and the men too don't understand that they're supposed to love their wives as themselves. So they need to go and study the scriptures, Ephesians, Colossians, starting from Genesis. What does the scripture say about marriage? So somebody who is not really grounded in his faith, in Christianity, who is not born again, will not be able to manage his. I always tell people, the reason, yes, my husband was saved as a child. The reason why I'm enjoying my husband is because the seed was sown into him as a child. When he went away, of course, he strayed and things like that, but he could not go very far. So parents do have a responsibility to raise their children in the faith. So when they're raised in the faith, that is what's going to help them. They'll know the importance of two coming together, that when the two of them are working together, they're stronger. That's all for me for now.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. Goke, your last question. Goke, can you hear me? Okay, while we are waiting for Goke.
Yes, we can hear you now. Can you hear me too, sir?
We seem to be frozen before, yeah.
Okay, okay. Yes, all right, all right. So it has been a very interesting session that I just I've been learning and I've been listening. So my question is, we have quite a lot of young couples traveling abroad, and we've seen situations where a lot of people that have traveled abroad, maybe when they get over there, you see quite a lot of separations. And because of this, sometimes we have a lot of conversations in the office among friends, and you see most of your friends will tell you, if you marry and you take your wife abroad, you are mumu. Well, how do you think we can prevent these situations? Because even if you look at the rates, specifically in the US, and I think also in the UK, you've seen quite a lot of either, I think, Nigeria and Ghana
We can hardly hear
marriages
you. I
breaking
can
when they
hardly hear
get
you.
over there. Oh,
Okay, you can hardly hear me.
can you
I
hear me
can
now?
hear
Is it
him
better
very
now?
well.
No, but
Yes.
I'm
I can hear
hearing
him
him
very
loud and
well.
clear.
I can hear him very well.
Okay,
Maybe there's something wrong with your
okay,
connection. Tweak it.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
All right, okay, okay. So, thank God you can hear me. So, how do you think we can prevent this? Because it's giving quite a lot of young people concerns. Like, what's the probability that when you marry, we've seen people that are God fearing, they have all these attributes of Proverb 31 woman, and they get over there and everything is scattered. Like my people will say, they chop breakfast. What do you advise for this category of people?
Okay. I think Ms. Luponi is having a challenge with her connection. You see, the problem is the fact that they don't have the support system that they have, that people who are here have. And when they go the japa, and they have this, they look at everything through rose tinted glasses. They don't know that Ilu has his own treasures. He has his own treasures. And when they get there, they can't handle the pressures. So, of course, there'll be a lot of contention. Each person is trying to cope with one thing or the other. Maybe they didn't get a job quickly. Maybe one person is supposed to be going to school. They have children and they can't cope. So their patient, their patience is very thin. The tolerance level is very thin. And that is primarily why it is not a matter of because they jackpot. It's the society there. It's very different from our own. And there's no support system. And if they were not strong before they left, it would be difficult for them to stay together when they get there.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Mubolore. Now, let me ask you as my own
Thank
parting
you.
question. There are two things. You mentioned something while we are discussing why marriages fail this generation. And one of the reasons why you gave was that financial empowerment to our women make our marriage very volatile. Has it always been like that?
No.
Number one. Number two, no. Number two.
No. Let me give you a story of my admin officer when I was a trainer
Okay.
in the bank. He used to, you see, he used to hand over all his salary to his wife at the end of each month. We all thought it was foolish. At that time, I was not born again, so I didn't have that understanding. And I asked him one day, and I said, Asholubi, why are you handing over your salary to your wife? Because he was a SU, real SU. The wife was and she was even an Igbo lady. So it was like, for us, it was like, dancing one, handing over his entire salary. He will withdraw everything and give it to her. He said, Toba unko noton. Meaning if she like, let her finish spending everything. They'll go hungry together. And she never betrayed that trust. She never did. And as far as it was, you made fun of him or whatever, he still continued to do it. So it comes back to what I'm saying, that is lack of understanding, right, of what they're supposed to do that causes that kind of problem. So someone who has that understanding, because there are times that one person will have money, the other person won't. You don't know the future. So if you say because you have money today and you misbehave or you don't want him anymore, you don't know what he's going to become now or what she's going to become. Does that answer your question?
Wonderfully well. Mrs.
What was the
Okoni, you are
question?
welcome back. Let me
Thank
even, I will put the question to you now. The question now is, has it always been the husband money is our money, my money is my money? Has it always been that? Or is a recent development?
Well, I won't say, one of the things, like she said earlier on, was that the way we empowered our daughters so well that, okay, I forgot to say this at the time when we were talking about marriages not working and all that stuff. Something happened recently, and my son is of a marriageable age. So I was telling him that, look, go and look for a babe and bring to us, because you are getting to a marriageable age. At least start the courtship first. And he now said that, do I have anybody in mind? I mean, we're just having a discussion, as it were. So I mentioned somebody, and then he just laughed and left. And it was my daughter that now explained to me that why he laughed and why he's not so disposed to the idea of that person was because the girl is a big girl. And I'm like, what is a big girl? So the girl is young, she's 27 years old, but she has a very good job. He also has a good job, but he feels that she has more earning power than him, and that why am I, that's a big girl. So I had to tell my daughter, I said, even my daughter was supporting him that she's a big girl, and this girl is humble. And I really know her parents and all that stuff. And I said to her, I said, look, let me tell you something. This is the reason why you people are not married.
Because we are not the one that will get married to her.
Because she's earning so much income. So I had to call my daughter's attention to the fact that, look, I said, you yourself, okay, you are an engineer. You are doing your master's. If you came to the first class, if you've had throughout your whatever, you got jobs. When I say jobs, internship jobs in oil companies and big places. So you have that potential of getting a job when you finish your master's in a big place or multinational, because your goal is high. Now you are 22 years old, okay? And then by the time you are 24, when you want to start working, you get a job in a fantastic and big place, as maybe a multinational. I said, so everybody will not tag you as a big girl. Then because of that, nobody should come near you to say they want to marry you. And that's when it dawned on her. You understand? Because this same girl is practically like her. Came out with a first class. You understand me? Gets the best of jobs. And she's okay. But she's humble. She's a good girl. Because I carried her from cradle. So I had to tell her, I said, this is one of the reasons why people don't want to. But however, we had a case. A case that is more like my own goddaughter. By the time they were going through counseling in our class, she refused to, because she had the bigger earning power. She said her money is her money. And the guy, and you want to marry. So I told her, I said, you don't have any business marrying this man. And at this time, she was like 37 or so.
Oh.
But the guy was a widower. So, and I said to her, I said, look, if you don't want to, but she had more earning power. We took a lot. It took my husband to be able to beg her down and say, she now said, okay, she'll be thinking about it. That's what she said. She said they are going ahead to get married, but she'll be thinking about it, that their purse has to be won. By the time they got married, after like 2-3 years of marriage, she lost her job. She lost her job. The guy got a job, not only got a job, became a partner. This guy today is what you can call an agbabola. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
He has money.
Which was what I said earlier.
And he dishes out the money to her like the reason why he does that is that she had a change of heart. When they got married, she started having, because two of them now had to put money together, she brought even more for them to rent a house. Because she didn't want to, reason being that she didn't want to go to Yanokwajabi, something where the guy was staying. So they moved to Anthony. So she had to bring on that she cannot stay anywhere else. But somehow when she did that, she now saw that it's so easy for you people to just put resources together. Today, she's practically a full-time housewife, but she lacks nothing. So if she had held on to her financial state, you can imagine what would have been happening. The guy would have been counting the money for her one after the other.
Thank you, Mrs. Oponi. Your passing word as we come to the end of it, part 45 for today. It has been awesome listening to two of you. I think we still do this again. What do you think, Goke? So, Mrs. Moboluni, what's your passing word? Yes,
For
what's
me,
your passing
what I
word
was saying,
as we come to the
first
end
of
of
all,
this?
before I do that, I apologize for joining late. I was using my phone. It was when I now decided to use my iPad, I realized that I was supposed to have entered. I'd been on there since
Okay.
6:05, as I said. So apologies. That was when I realized
Okay.
that I hadn't done what I was supposed to do, because this is my first time using this link. What I'd
Even
like
me.
to say
Oh,
is
you're
that
welcome.
So what I'd like to say is that we should just encourage the young ones. First of all, we older ones, we need to be good examples to them. And then we need to encourage them to get married, because two together is stronger, as the Bible says in Ecclesiastes. So they should join forces together. And when we were getting married, we were looking at, they used to say, Olorun Shogo and Surulere, Abi Angela.
Yes.
So we're looking at potential. We're not looking for ready-made. It's because now there's so much, power, financial power in both hands, that they're behaving the way they're behaving. In our own time, I can tell stories of how when we got married, we didn't have a display unit, and my husband had, and he used to have lots and lots of LPs. It was all arranged on the floor. These books were arranged on the floor. There was no way. Pastor Beto has talked about somebody coming to his place and saying that he didn't have furniture. So we looked at potential. Does the person have potential? So most encourage them that they should look at the potential in the person, not what the person has now. And then if they are not ready to be the number one cheerleader of that person, number one supporter, that person can go far. Because those who have been successful is because they had wives who supported them. So if they're not ready to support one another, they should have no business getting married.
Thank you, Mrs. Moboluni. What an
Okay.
awesome conclusion from Mrs. Angela Oponi. So, what's your parting shot tonight as we come to the end of Impact 45 on marriage matters?
My parting shot is marriage is all about commitment. You have to be committed to the person, to the other party. If you don't have that spirit of commitment in you, you'll be a mess even in the marriage. Number two, marriage is all about giving. You enter into marriage
Sacrifice.
what you want to give and not what you want to get out of the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like the Bible says, or any saying that goes, it says the givers have the upper hand. So imagine two people giving into the marriage, they will both rise up with an upper hand. So marriage is all about giving. Number three, please ensure that your background, okay, deal with your background as a person before going into marriage. If your background is such that is not a very palatable one, because that is one of the things that is trending for us in the counseling, people with disjointed backgrounds, their mother married four people, did not marry anybody, gave birth baby mamas all over the place, and issues of domestic violence issue in their background, issues of abuse and all that stuff. That's what we are going through. If you are going into marriage, you need to deal with your background. Okay, there's no perfect background out there, but you need to deal with your background so that you can enter into the marriage with the heart of giving into that marriage. Thank you very much.
Wow. What
Can I
a
just add to
wonderful.
what she said? Marriage, like she said, it's about giving. Marriage is the sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. If you're not ready to sacrifice, you have no business getting married. because, like she said, it's giving, all about giving and not expecting anything in return.
Thank you so very much. With that, we have come to
Thank
the
you.
end of today's edition of Impact 45. And I love the way we are coming to conclusion that marriage is all about sacrifice, giving and not expecting anything in return. So till we come your way again, that has come to the concluding part of Impact 45 this evening. Thank you, Mrs. Muboluri. Thank you, Mrs. Uponi. It's a wonderful time having the two of you. I think you have to come again.
Right?
I think
Thanks for
you
inviting
have
us.
to come
Thanks
again.
for inviting us. Anytime.
So, Brad, okay.
Thank you, Brother Goke. It's
The
nice to
last
meet you.
Sunday
Yes, sir.
in the month of March, we are going to have another edition of Impact 45. And I want to encourage our listeners and our viewers to stay tuned. Brad, okay.
Yes, yes, really. I really hope we'll have them on the show. I'm really expectant that we'll have them again so we can learn. In fact, apart from impact, if possible, we'll still speak to you. We'll see how, vibrant you to still invite both of them to come and have a conversation with us.
Okay. 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 See you
Thank you very
again.
much.
All right.
The
Thank
last
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
God
Sunday
bless you all.
in the month
Thank
of
you.
Have a
God
pleasant
bless you.
March.
evening.
God bless you.
Have a nice
Thank
week.
you.
Amen. You too.
God
Bye.
bless you. Bye.